In February 2013, 21-year-old Canadian student Elisa Lam vanished while traveling alone in Los Angeles. 18 days later, a maintenance worker discovered her body floating inside one of the massive water cisterns located on the roof of the Cecil Hotel. Before investigators found her remains, the Los Angeles Police Department tried to generate leads by releasing the last known surveillance footage of Lam alive. Within hours, the video spread across the internet. In the footage, Lam steps into a hotel elevator and rapidly presses an entire vertical column of buttons. She darts out into the hallway, presses herself tightly into the corner of the cabin to hide, and makes fluid, unusual hand gestures, as if communicating with someone just out of frame. Millions of viewers analyzed the footage. Message boards and online forums quickly filled with elaborate theories. Viewers suspected everything from a coordinated institutional cover-up and an invisible stalker to an ancient supernatural ritual. The LAPD released this footage without disclosing a crucial piece of medical context: Lam's clinical history of severe bipolar disorder. This omission left an empty space that millions of people eagerly filled with their own thriller narratives. Online investigators zeroed in on a detail reported by early news outlets. They argued a 115-pound woman climbing into a water tank could not possibly pull the heavy metal hatch shut from the inside, concluding a murderer trapped her. The unredacted court depositions from the subsequent civil litigation revealed a different fact. Santiago Lopez, the maintenance worker who first discovered the body, testified under oath that the hatch was already open when he arrived on the roof. Extracting the remains required the Los Angeles Fire Department to drain all 1,000 gallons of water from the tank and use heavy cutting tools to physically breach the side of the metal cylinder. Years of intense speculation about an impossible cover-up were built entirely on a misreported detail from early news cycles, rather than the physical evidence of the scene. When the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner evaluated the remains, they found zero evidence of a struggle. There were no defensive wounds on her extremities, no internal injuries to the neck or throat, and no signs of sexual assault. Lam's clothing was found floating separately at the bottom of the tank. In cases of severe hypothermia, victims frequently experience paradoxical undressing, a physiological glitch where a sudden rush of blood to the extremities creates a burning sensation, causing the disoriented person to strip off their clothes to cool down. With no physical trauma present, investigators turned to the toxicological analysis of her prescribed psychotropic medications to understand the mechanism of her death. This chart shows her prescription drug concentrations. The critical data point is quetiapine, her primary antipsychotic for managing delusions. The toxicology screen shows this level plummets to 0. This ratio was unbalanced by venlafaxine, a stimulating antidepressant still active in her bloodstream. Taking a strong antidepressant without the suppressive effects of an antipsychotic forces the neurochemistry out of balance. This specific chemical ratio is a documented clinical trigger capable of inducing a rapid cycling manic episode coupled with severe psychosis. Bipolar I disorder and acute psychosis provide the clinical framework for interpreting the elevator video as a tragic documentation of a psychiatric crisis. Pressing an entire column of elevator buttons and crouching on the floor are physical manifestations of manic impulsivity. Inside, her brain's limbic system is rapidly misfiring, severing her connection to objective reality and generating intense paranoia. Her seemingly jointless, bizarre hand gestures are known clinically as waxy flexibility, a state of abnormal motor posturing where a patient actively reacts to auditory or visual hallucinations. Driven by terrifying delusions, she sought refuge. In previous psychotic episodes, Lam had hidden under her bed to escape perceived threats. At the hotel, this same instinct drove her upward, seeking the dark, enclosed space of the rooftop tank as a sanctuary. Rather than suicide, Lam entered the water to hide from a threat existing entirely within her fractured perception, ultimately succumbing to the cold. Why did millions of people reject the forensic evidence in favor of ghosts and assassins? The answer lies in the grim history of the Cecil Hotel itself. Built in the 1920s, the building was eventually absorbed into the perimeter of Skid Row, evolving into an epicenter for transient populations, unchecked addiction, and poverty amidst severe urban decay. The building earned the local nickname Hotel Death due to its high frequency of overdoses and violence. In the 1980s, it even served as a long-term residence for prolific serial killer Richard Ramirez. Management attempted to rehabilitate this toxic image by rebranding portions of the building as a budget-friendly boutique hostel. This cosmetic separation created an illusion of safety that attracted young international backpackers. When a young woman vanished under strange circumstances in a building globally synonymous with murder, the public experienced massive confirmation bias. The sensationalized history of the location overpowered the empirical data of the body. This environment triggered widespread apophenia, the psychological tendency for the human brain to perceive meaningful connections between entirely unrelated pieces of data. Internet sleuths connected her death to a localized tuberculosis outbreak, specifically because the public health test was coincidentally named Lam Elisa. They also noted plot similarities to the 2002 horror film Dark Water, weaving medical and cinematic coincidences into massive conspiracy theories. This crowdsourced vigilantism quickly found a target. Online forums systematically zeroed in on Pablo Vergara, a Mexican heavy metal musician who had previously posted a vlog from the hotel. Because his music featured dark aesthetics, users arbitrarily decided he was the killer. Despite possessing passport-verified evidence that he was recording an album in Mexico during Lam's disappearance, Vergara received thousands of death threats, leading to a severe mental health collapse. Satisfying cinematic villains proved more narratively compelling to digital audiences than the devastating, mundane reality of a psychiatric failure. Ultimately, the tragedy highlights a deep societal deficit in understanding severe mental illness, where viral mysteries frequently overshadow the human reality of a medical crisis.